The Highways and Waterways Committee meeting for Thursday, the 20th of April, to order. Roll call. Okay.
Mr. Carrico, Mr. Dennell,
Present.
Mr. Featherling,
Present.
Mr. Snipes, Mr. Smith,
Present.
Ms. Armour Earps,
Present.
Mr. Ashcraft,
Present.
Ms. Rittman-Akemi,
Present.
Ms. Turner,
Present.
Mr. Wheeler,
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand. We have a quorum.
Very good. Okay, I don't have any public comment. Is there any public comment out there? No? Okay. Good deal. Well, let's move to approval of the minutes from the March the 23rd meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Featherling. Second, Mr. Smith. Voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Moving on. Okay, highways.
All right. First off, we're opening the bids today for
Okay.
the new SUV.
Oh, number 3, sorry. Okay.
Start over. The bid opening is today, the 9 o'clock for the.
Don't open them yet. Let me get a motion to do that.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to open the bids? Mr. Featherling, do I have a second? Mr. Turner. Okay, voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
All right. Neither one of the envelopes are labeled, so we'll find out when we open it up. The first bid is from Hovey Buick GMC.
What's that?
And their price is $66,465. Next bid is from Country Chevrolet. Only backtrack, the bid for Hovey was for a GMC Yukon. The Country Chevrolet bid is for a Chevrolet Tahoe. And their price is $68,061. So the apparent low bidder is Hovey Buick GMC. What we need to do is take these back and compare them to the specs to make sure we're getting everything we asked for on in the package.
Sure.
So, like I said, the apparent low bidder is Hovey.
Yes, sir. Mr. Featherling.
Is that apples and apples when you compare a GMC to a Tahoe?
Pretty much, but we have to make sure that everything's included that we asked for. And if there's a reason why not, we'll find out. But yeah, all the specs were kind of, that's what I was looking for, a GMC product.
Keep it local too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's in the county.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, what's the state bid price on this? Because the dealers have to request a dealer assist in order to get the state bid price.
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. I'll have to.
Well, that's the only price that we're going to pay, is the state bid price. They have to match it, or we buy it from the state through the state's bidding process. I'm really kind of confused here, because usually we put out to bid a Tahoe or a GMC Yukon with specs, and then we know what the state bid price is to compare it to. So our local dealers have to request a dealer assist in order to match that price.
I'll have to get back to you. I don't have an answer for that.
Because I personally, I mean, you guys have used both GMCs and Tahoes out there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the sheriff's department's using all Tahoes. So we're not necessarily exclusive to that, but we have to request special, or the dealer has to request the special pricing. So as long as we're in line with what the state bid price is, I'd be willing to make the motion to accept the lowest responsible bidder.
At the state price?
State bid.
At the state bid price?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have the motion. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Featherling?
I have a question.
Okay,
Andy,
microphone.
it's,
Sorry. 10. It's for Andy up there. How do you go to the dealer and each one has to, what if they both say they'll match the price, Andy? The state
Well, then
bid.
you get to decide which one you want. Actually, this came from me and Pat McConnell approaching Country Chevrolet about wanting to have them bid on these vehicles that we were buying directly from the state bid. And we wanted our local dealers to be able to purchase or to be able to sell us the vehicles. So we know that you have to request from the manufacturer a dealer assist in order to be able to supply these vehicles on a local level
So they could get like a
at the
rebate?
price that we would pay from the state.
And they could get like a rebate for the difference? Is that how that would work then?
They pay a lower price.
They pay.
Yeah, the dealer pays a lower price so they can make money enough to be able to sell the product to the county or the municipality or whoever.
So my second is for the state bid price to pay.
Okay.
How about you, Ken? Did you make the first?
I did.
Mr. Snipes, what number are you?
This is 14.
So 14, thank you.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes,
There needs to be a second or it needs to die.
there
got
is a
a
second for
second.
Mr. Featherling.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
a second. Okay, what I was trying to understand, because I know he gave the question, is what is the motion entail? Is it a motion that basically says that we're going to approve the bid pending the state bid price, and that gives him the jurisdiction to make the decision whether he goes with the state or with the local? So are we doing it pending that, or is it just, because I heard him say he's just approving the state bid, but if he can get it lower than the state bid or match the state bid, sometimes we want
Right.
to support local business, that would leave it up to his discretion. So is the pending in there? So what is the motion, the clarification of the motion?
Could you restate the motion, please, Mr. Wheeler?
The motion was as long as this matches the state bid price for either the GMC or the Tahoe, then the motion would be to take the lowest responsible bidder based on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Give our locals the chance
Yes.
to match.
We got your second. We're good. Okay, any other questions? Okay, looks like a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dennell,
Aye.
Mr. Featherling,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
All right,
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Miss Armour Earps, Mr. Ashcraft, Miss Rittman Akemi, Miss Turner, Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay. Good deal, thank you. So now we're gonna move on to the pay estimates.
We got a couple today, not too many. First pay estimate is for Kankakee County, Section 22-00304-00-BR. Pay estimate 1 to Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick. They're designing the new bridge out on County Highway 17. We've gotten approval from the state to start working on that, so this is their first invoice in the amount of $4,496.25 to be paid for from the county motor fuel tax fund. Next invoice, pay estimate number 3 to Hutchison Engineering, Kankakee County, Section 08-00286-00-FP. This is for designing the improvement to County Highway 9 in Mantino between I-57 and US 45, and they've got 2 invoices here. Grand total of $9,143.40 to be paid from the Rebuild Illinois funds. Next, the pay estimate County Section 23-00000-00-GM, pay estimate number 2 to Vulcan Construction Materials for buying road mix for use in the county in the amount of $3,052.51, be paid out of the county MFT fund. Next up is Pembroke Township, Section 23-11000-00-GM, pay estimate 1 to the Pembroke Township Road District for equipment rental in the amount of $6,221.99 to be paid for out of the Township Motor Fuel Tax Fund. Next section is Kankakee County, section 23-00000-00-BI, pay estimate 2 to Engineering Resource Associates for bridge inspection services throughout the county, in the amount of $12,455.00 to be paid for out of the county bridge fund. Next is Chenier Township section 22-04-108-00-BR, pay estimate 1 to Engineering Resource Associates. They're designing a new bridge in Chenier Township, and this is their first pay estimate for design in the amount of $10,630 to be paid out of the Township Bridge Fund, County Bridge Funds, and the Chenier Local Fund. It's split 3 ways if you look on the bottom of the pay estimate. And that's the last one I have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve? Mr. Featherling? We have a second?
Emmy's fine.
Emmy, Miss Emmy. I'm looking at the back of your iPad. I'm trying to remember. Apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. Questions? No, we're good? Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Tuttle?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling? Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Armour-Herbst? Mr. Ashcraft? Ms. Ritmanick Emmy? Ms. Turner? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Cool. Anything else for us, Greg?
Probably fall under new business if you want to wait that long. Otherwise, I can bring it out now.
You're here. Sure. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Okay, just a few odds and ends. We're having a new maintenance foreman is going to start next Monday, who will be in also handling the river duties. We got him from the Corps of Engineers, so he's pretty versed in issues that deal with the river. So he'll be able to step in and probably start rolling from day one on that issue. And again, starting this coming Monday. Another note, County Highway 6, that's been restricted with barrels because we had needed some bridge repair per the state. They posted it and told us that we had to close it down. So there's a lane down the middle. Well, we've done the repairs. We're waiting for the concrete to cure, and hopefully next week we can open that back up, take off the load posting, and we've got a good bridge again. So one down, a couple more to go. We're trying to get caught up on all our posted bridges, and that's the easiest one. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay,
Do we do 10,000?
let's move on here. Yes, Mr. Snipes.
I believe we did, but did we do the 10,630? Yeah, okay. I'll just make,
Pay estimate?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good.
Okay. Good deal.
Kept me
Thanks, Greg.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next up, the Roma Park sediment progress update. Mr. Wheeler, is this something you're going to go through?
Yeah, I can do that, Mr. Chairman. There's really not a lot of, that's changed since last month. They're still scheduled to do the mussel study in the spring. If there is nothing, which the more people I talk to that know that stretch of the river, that know the what the mussels prefer, and in terms of habitat, we shouldn't see them in this area. They should be upstream in the more rocky part. If there is one of those past Ryan's Pier upstream that way, so there is a lot of hope here that we won't have to deal with putting mussels back into the river after we dredge them out, which is a huge cost. So the other thing is the bathymetric study that is going on of the whole river system in the county from Indiana border all the way through to Warner Bridge, if you will, and then the Iroquois River just across the Iroquois County line going south. That's through our GIS department. We are hooking up the two projects together, so we can save a little bit of money or get a higher level detail of bathymetrics about the Aroma Park area, because we have two separate projects. One is the mapping of the entire river, and they've also doing bathymetrics on the part that we're dredging. So that's just a kind of an update. There's not a whole lot to that yet. Shortly, we'll be reaching out to the people that had expressed an interest in taking all of the sand to start to talk about that. And we also have obviously the intergovernmental agreement that will be finalizing with the Park District. We're all agreed that it's, we're going to use that land, or excuse me, that parking lot at the dredge site to de-water, so we don't have to truck it twice. We just have to get that agreement on paper, and state's attorney's working on that, so we should be okay. So unless there's any other clarifications needed on that, we could move on to the presentation that I had, that I could share the screen for.
I think we're good. Let's move forward.
The next item, if you will. So let me make sure I can get this going here. You guys see anything?
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully this is going out to the public as well. I think it should be. This is part of the presentation I did at the Watershed Conference out at KCC, and then I added in at the end all of the equipment that we have submitted on the list of capital expenditures for the $7 million grant. It's really an appropriation, but it's being handled as a DNR grant. So they're the management arm of the state on this. So basically, we're getting across that, we're taking action, we're moving forward. I apologize, there's something going on here. Why is this freezing? So just to revisit, we have the $1 million for the dredging of Aroma Park, $7 million that we received via Senator Joyce's efforts. And the goal was to invest in the equipment to enhance the access and enjoyment of the river and do the work out of our highway department. As Greg mentioned, we found somebody that has Army Corps of Engineer experience, or it's a local individual who will be bringing that person to the committee to meet them in the future here, whether it's probably going to let them get their feet on the ground and bring them next month or the following. But it's going to be essential to have that acumen in-house from an engineering standpoint. This is not the overall fix. This is also important for the public to realize to the sediment situation. Indiana's working on stopping the sediment from their side of things, and it's working, but that's a long-term effort, 30, 40 years to keep it back, because then we can dredge what is here strategically after that point. But while we want to use our river, we want to remove sediment from the boat launches and stabilize the banks and remove log jams, as we call strategic maintenance, so we can use and enjoy the river from a sporting and really, that's where we get our water from as well. So we're going to utilize the 40-year work plan to address our side of the state line, because there are projects that have been laid out by the engineering firms as far as things that we can do to kind of keep things at bay, waiting for that big project that would come with the sand goes back to what it had done since there were glaciers here, or melted, should I say, a little bit at a time, instead of these big whooshes of sand coming our direction, and sediment, which is a problem in certain places. Let's see here, and then we're going to plan for the 2024 appropriation to execute and finalize. Obviously, this committee is going to have to appropriate money for the actual labor to get some things done, whether it's to clear out log jams around bridges. We're going to have that equipment. If it's to clear out a log jam that's creating a new island somewhere in the river, we're going to have the equipment to address that. So you have the Conservancy District in the Moments area. I'm sorry, what's going on there?
Yeah, we're beyond that. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So in general, it's the Conservancy and Moments has dominion over that stretch of the river. We would have to work in concert with them, and as you'll see, there is some equipment for them to do their job in the list. So there is a work plan for the Indiana side, but there's also a work plan for the Illinois side too, things that we can do in the interim. So when I say, if you look at the far right, it says section 5.1.2. These are actual sections within the work plan. People can look this up. It's on the Kankakee and Yellow River Basin Development Commission's website with the 40-year work plan. It's massive with a lot of documentation, and I would highly recommend anybody interested in the river to go look through that, because the statement is made sometimes that Indiana needs to fix the problem. They are. They've actually allocated a lot of money towards that effort. It will be over the next 30, 40 years. So our end of it is reduce sediment supply from severely eroded the Kankakee slopes, zone-specific access and logjam management, construct storage areas along laterals to offset increased runoff, and strategic flood protection measures. Those are things that we can address that are active, that we get out there and use equipment to take care of some problems, engineered solutions, if you will. And then there's a lot of passive management recommendations on things that we need to do in terms of our stormwater ordinances and the drainage projects, cover crops, things like that, that'll all feed into this. So this slide is basically just to show that while there's a lot of unstable banks in Indiana, we've got 2 miles here in Illinois that we need to stabilize as well. And that's something we can do on our own to keep that sediment from getting into the river. Let's see here. Those shorelines are, as noted here, that's Moments. East-South Shore Drive is the red areas. You see that. If you've been down there, you know what I'm talking about. Also, Sun River Terrace, those shores are eroded and just pouring sediment into the river when it comes through there at high water. And this is one of the big problems. Put this slide on here. Singleton Ditch it empties so much land. It has a stone quarry pumping into it in Indiana. And all of those banks there are eroding into the water. When you see concrete on the banks, what that does is it creates little whirlpool drills that drill down into the sediment and release it into the water. That's a major issue if you go just east of, not just east, but that's where it enters the Kankakee is east of Moments. It becomes a major problem over there. 23 miles in Illinois. What we need to do, and I'll show you the next slide on what we're doing in Indiana, is an engineered solution to keep that out of the river, the Kankakee River. Now, if we go all the way to the state line, it's $4.5 million. We don't have that money right now. That is nowhere to be found. But it's essential that we at least recognize it, and we have to address it at some. This is kind of a picture of what they've done it is a picture of what they've done in Indiana. This is what we need to do on Singleton. Most of the engineers, there'll be different opinions that come in with it, but it needs to be carved back and then stabilized so the bank doesn't continue just to fall into the river every time we have a high water event, and then it causes real problems at the mouth of the Singleton Ditch where it goes into the Kankakee River. Sometimes that water starts running backwards to Indiana. So we've got some issues over there beyond the state line bridge, for sure. So next thing, section 5.1.3, zone-specific access and logjam management. The bottom right is the state line bridge. Once you get all that torsional stress on the bridge, right now that bridge is in Indiana, 95% of it. If it falls, it's about 100% in Illinois. And scrappers go out there and take more and more metal off this every day. So I can tell you that is an issue, and it looks like we might be able to get that thing dismantled and taken down, working with the Indiana Commission to get that done. They have been cleaning it out for us, just so this committee knows. Indiana's commission is spending money to get this cleared out because it backs up like a fishbowl in Indiana. So that whole mutually shared destruction, if you will, if the old Cold War phrase, if we don't do something, their life doesn't get better, and if they don't do something, our life doesn't get better. Finally, we're all at the table. This is important because we need to do this in Illinois as well. We just don't know where yet. You've got to create capacity, because they can't drain the largest, inland, if you will. I wouldn't call it swampland, but basically the marshland, the Grand Kankakee Marsh, you can't drain that and not have repercussions. So you got to have retention in order to keep the water back, because the river still will be a river. It will still flood. So what's gone on in Indiana is they've they had 200 acres at Thayer Farm, which they used to lease out. Then the next to them was Blackberry Farm. So they took both of them and created, and this is Thayer, you see the picture there. They created 200 acres of spillway out of this area where you see Grand Kankakee River Basin. That's the access point. So they created this. So when the water got high, and it actually just happened for the first time, it runs off into this retention area as a relief valve to the river. We're going to need that in order to compensate for digging a straight ditch for what, 30, 40 miles in Indiana. So this next graph, if you will, comes right out of the 40-year work plan. You'll see those things like improve the access points. Those are really ramps on each side of bridges so we can get our equipment in the water. We have to be able to get in there to do stuff. And if in fact we lose some access, well, then we just can't work on that part of the river, and that would be a tragedy. So we're looking at those areas where we had FEMA buyouts, where we actually own the property now and forever, to put those ramps in. And strategically, we have those. One is by I-57 on the upstream side. That's why we're helping out with the Beckman Park boat launch with the Park District, because we need access down there as well. And each side of the Route 17 bridge, we have one side, we're going to be looking at the other side. So you'll see all of these access points in here, and then it also has the banks that we need to stabilize as well. So there are things that are identified. Here is the Aroma Park project footprint, if you will. Lisa wanted to show the committee that. And then here's some of the equipment that we're looking at. We're looking at a sand collector, sediment collector system, and the associated equipment to clean it out and have it be just sitting there running, if you will, all the time. It's about $2.5 million, as you'll see, and that's a longer term solution. Do we put it at the state line? Do we put it at Singleton Ditch? Those are things that we have to talk to engineers about, but we know that we need some type of active management of that. Here's the amphibious excavator, so we can get in there and in the water, within reason. Obviously, you see how high the cap is. We can't bring it out in 12-foot water, but we can definitely get out there and do some good work. When you have a large tree that falls in, soon following will be a new sand island. So that's how Aroma Park situation got going, from what I understand. And we need to be more active in that, and thank goodness our highway department will be able to do that for us. This boom truck is for the bridge work, so it can reach down and saw things off. Got to have one of those, and the chippings go in the back there. We're going to need the semi and the lowboy to bring things out. So we've identified, Greg had kind of looked at what he might need in backup equipment. Let's see here. There's the box truck for the clippings and a whole tree shredder. So we're going to take a whole tree and shove it in there and shred it. So we're not, out there with saws cutting things up and bringing them all over the place. Let's see here. Here's the attachment that we're going to get that will take a tree. It's pretty impressive. You like this kind of stuff. So this is a list of equipment. I'll just run through it real quick. This wasn't just me or Greg sitting around. What would be cool? What kind of toys do you want? This is after discussions we had with the engineering firms that are actually doing the work in Indiana and the Indiana group on what they wish they had in order to take care of some things that they could knock out on their own. And so you see the excavator there, tree cutting attachments, the lowboy, semi-trailer, whole tree chipper, a towable one, a box truck for the chippings, remote access aerial cutter, that's a big one. And then we're going to need to store this somewhere, so we've got a number in there on a storage building that may flex depending on the cost that the market is demanding these days. Push tug rescue boat, you got to be safe, safety crew barge. And I put a flat bottom workboat in there because you're going to have to get up the tributaries to take a look at things that are going on up those things like, I don't know, a Baker Creek or something like that. Even up Singleton Ditch, you might not be able to get another type of watercraft up there. The gauges, this is another big one. I'm talking to the city and indirectly with Karma regarding the need to put gauges on the dam. There is no river gauge between Momence and Wilmington, and that's a problem. So we don't really know the turbidity, the volume, until we already know we have a flood. Or Wilmington says you flooded. Well, duh. But, you know, we knew that an hour ago before you told us. So you see the access launches there. But those gauges, just so this committee knows, they're expensive. And the reason they're expensive is because you're getting 100% warranty with them. If somebody comes by and shoots it off the location with their shotgun while they're out and you're goofing around, well, then we get a whole new gauge. If it breaks, you get a whole new gauge. You know, so it is a 100% replacement. It's almost the equipment and the insurance policy. Then it will be hooked up, as I've talked to USGS. It'll be hooked up into their internet reporting system, so everybody will be able to see in real time what's going on. There were some launches there. Sediment trap, 2.3 million. We may decide that we would like to do single to ditch groundwork instead of do a sediment trap. You know, so that's a little bit flexible right now. The shore equipment for that I accounted for. Here's the Conservancy, some things they asked for in order to maintain their part of the river. A seawall, a construction contingency, because you just don't know, obviously. Pontoon boat. We already fixed one of their motors, a 90 horsepower and a 65 horsepower motor, Kubota drones, and a dock over at Island View so they can utilize that during season. And if they needed some type of a lean-to or a building to keep these things out of the elements on their property that they have there, we would be able to help with that. So I put that 40 grand in. Aroma Fire already purchased their hovercraft rescue boat. That was included in this as well. And then Limestone Fire asked for the same thing. Unfortunately, usually it's a recovery operation when Limestone Fire's involved, because there has been a loss of life, and it's kind of sad, but in this case, they'll be able to address emergency situations on both sides of the river. That will really help them out. Let's see, and actually the other fire district that takes care of the other side of the river. Let's see here, the boat access repair I mentioned for the Kankakee Valley Park District. We're chipping in 150 out of this to help that retaining wall, because we've got to get into the water, and there's only one place, which is there, where that ramp is out of the current. And that's a big deal when you're putting in a massive piece of equipment. So, and then the construction contingency. So I just thought it was good that the committee saw all of these things that we've submitted, Ben has submitted to the state, as far as this is what we're using the appropriation for. And so I guess I could answer questions as best possible based on this list. And that was it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Are there any questions? Okay, good. Yes, Mr. Snipes.
I know that we're.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Snipes.
I know that we're going through the dredging process, and I also know, like, the city of Kankakee and maybe some other towns at some point wants like to have the river walkway that's coming through, and I know that we're asking for dollars. Are any of these kind of like intergovernmental, not so much agreements, but collaborative efforts to improve the river and beautify it at the same time for a walkway, et cetera, et cetera? There are dollars that's being, I guess they getting it for the walkway, but can these, are there any interchanges when it comes to how we might be able to stretch the dollar if one city is doing this, another city is doing that, we're trying to do this, and in essence, what they're trying to do can work with what we're trying to do? Are there like any interworkable savings in this process?
Mr. Wheeler, did you catch that?
No, for some reason I lost all sound there for a minute.
Essentially, Mr.
Apologize.
Snipes was asking if there was any way to stretch the dollar savings between us, the city, other municipalities that are working on river improvements.
There's nobody else working on river improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, what we're looking at is the city has they want to do the river walks and things of this nature. And what I was looking at is, as we're drudging and making the river a safer, more beautified and also a safer river for the community at large. I was just wondering, is there any interworkable things? Are they communicating at the table so that we're not at any given point in time spending unnecessary dollars to do almost some similar things that could be done? Like they're trying to do the banks.
There's nobody else doing what we're doing. I can guarantee you that. We're in the water, they're doing stuff around it.
Okay.
The only partnership that I was reaching out to other mayors on was the gauges, because that's something that benefits us all down the road, is the river gauging.
Okay.
Because it's about 25 to 30 grand a year for a gauge. It's really expensive.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, with regards to dredging and equipment, I didn't notice, and maybe it got by me, once we dredged the sand and we put it off to the side for dewatering, I don't think I noticed anything to reload that sand, a piece of equipment, loader, that kind of thing, and I was just curious what your thoughts were on that.
The haul away is part of the bid. Whoever is bidding on the project is also bidding on the haul away. So that part we don't have to necessarily worry about. We already have that equipment at the highway department, an end loader and things like that, to be able to load that stuff up. But it's really not on us. It's going to be on whoever's doing the actual dredging work for this project. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm not familiar with exactly where that dewatering is going to take place, but at some point in time, that sand is going to have a tendency to run with the water and spread out, and it's going to have to be reconsolidated at some point. I was just curious about that as well.
Working with Burke Engineering, they're currently doing it. Well, maybe not currently anymore. They may be done now, but the parking lot that is at the boat launch is where there's going to be the barricades put up, and the sand will be put, let sit for a couple of days, and then hauled away to its final resting place, if you will. The dewatering will run right back into the river from that site.
Okay, I was just thinking about the sand spreading out.
The concrete barriers will be a fixed, how do I say this? A fixed area within that footprint of a concrete parking lot.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
So the sand will stay, and the water will run back into the river. It's the best possible solution, cheapest too.
Anybody else? No, we're good. Thanks, Mr. Wheeler. Oh, Mr. Featherling.
I could have done this another time, I guess, but is there any money available from emergency management, EMT, or what's that? I'm sorry. Whoever blows off the tornado sirens, I forgot who that is. Would that be something that they would handle too? Through the is there anything available through the National Weather Service for grants or anything like that, Andy, for the river gauges?
Not for the gauges. I've looked around. That's it could be something that has to do with FEMA. We could start searching grants that way, but I haven't found anything other than local money.
Okay.
For it. Yeah.
Okay. And did you
I would much rather pay obviously $5 grand a year with a bunch of partners than 35 ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. Deal. Thanks, Mr. Wheeler. Okay. Ma'am, that came in with the public comment. Did you still want to make public comment? Yeah. Okay, just a moment. Do I have a motion to allow public comment? Second? Second. Roll call vote. Or not roll call. Voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, just the back microphone there, please.
Thank you very much. My first thing is, yeah, thank you. The KRCD needs a building, not, you mentioned a lean-to, because when we had the Army Corps of Engineers out there a couple years ago, DNR took them out. There were, what, 4 attorney generals that came out. The guy from DNR, and I was asked to go with him because he really didn't know what was going on and where to take these people. And we couldn't get to the spot that they wanted to see. They wanted to go east of Garden of Eden where the sand is and the trees are all growing on the river. And the Conservancy District has the pontoon, but I couldn't get a hold of it that day or otherwise. So we need to keep it so nice when we have officials like that. It's presentable. I guess that's really what I wanted to address, Andy.
Thank you. Could I have your slip, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any old business for the committee? No? Any new business for the committee? Other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn? First, Sarmer Earps. Second was Turner. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?